The average UK household now funds £48,000 of government spending every single year. That's not a typo. £48,000 per household per year. And here's my question. Do you feel like you're getting £48,000 worth of value back? Because in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly where your money goes, pound by pound. I'm going to show you the parts the government publishes proudly, the parts they'd rather you didn't look too closely, the VIP lanes, the £122 million gown contracts, the £80 billion half a railway, and at the end, I'm going to show you what a small but growing number of British business owners are doing about it legally. This is the video I'd want to see before paying another tax bill. Let's go. Before we talk about where it goes, let's be honest about how much goes, because your income tax is just the opening bid. You pay income tax at 20%, 40% or 45%. Then national insurance on top. Then your employer pays national insurance on you as well. Money that would otherwise be part of your salary. You just never see it. Then you take what's left to the shops and you pay 20% VAT. You fill up the car and you pay a fuel duty, and then VAT on top of the fuel duty. A tax on a tax. You pay council tax on your home, insurance tax on your policies, stamp duty when you move, tax on your dividends, which went up again this April, tax on your savings interest, and when you die, the government takes a final 40% cut of whatever you manage to keep. Add it all together and the IMF says Britain's tax burden is heading above 40% of national income, the highest it has been since the Second World War. The IMF, not me, the International Monetary Fund, has warned Britain is at peak taxation. And the cleverest part, income tax thresholds are frozen until 2031. So every pay rise quietly drags you into a higher band. 5.2 million more people will be paying income tax by 2030 without a single rate ever going up. That's the machine. Now let's open it up. This year, the UK government will spend around 1.37 trillion with a T. So let's break down every pound you hand over. Roughly 28 pence of every pound goes on welfare and social protection, about £379 billion. The single biggest slice of that is the state pension. Around 20 pence goes to health, about £277 billion for the NHS and related spending. About 11 pence goes to education, roughly 146 billion. Defence, about 4 pence in day-to-day spending. Everything else, police, courts, roads, councils, transport, fights over what's left. But here's the number I really want you to sit with. 8 pence of every pound, £110 billion this year, goes on debt interest. £110 billion with a B. That's more than we spend defending the country. That's nearly as much as we spend educating every child there is in Britain. And it buys you nothing. No nurse, no teacher, no pothole filled. It's interest on money that previous governments have already spent, much of it on things you're about to see in the next section. So when politicians tell you there's no money for your GP appointment, remember there was £110 billion for the bondholders. The money exists. It's the priorities that don't include you. Now, let's talk about how carefully they treat that money. Once they've taken it from you, cast your mind back to COVID, when the government needed PPE fast. It set up what the National Audit Office called a high priority lane, a VIP lane. If you had political connections, if you knew a minister, a peer, an MP, your company's offer was roughly 10 times more likely to win a contract than if you were just, say, a British manufacturer with no friends in Westminster. 10 times. One academic study flagged corruption risks across £15 billion of COVID contracts, nearly a third of all pandemic procurement spending. Want a specific example? PPE MedPro, a company linked to Baroness Michelle Mone, a Conservative peer, won a £122 million contract for surgical gowns through that VIP lane. The High Court ruled the gowns weren't even proven sterile and were unfit for NHS use. Every single one. The court ordered the money repaid. The company went into administration and missed the repayment deadline. The bill with interest now stands over £145 million. And Baroness Mone, who denied involvement for years, eventually admitted she stood to benefit around £60 million. £60 million of your money. That's the equivalent of the entire annual income tax bills of thousands of ordinary working families, routed through as a VIP lane to a peer's family trust while nurses were wearing bin bags. And it's not one bad apple. The government's own COVID counter-fraud commissioner says failed PPE deals alone cost you £1.4 billion. £762 million of it is never coming back. Bounce back loan fraud, around 1.7 billion lost from business support schemes and just £80 million recovered. HS2, it was meant to go from north to south, originally sold to you 37.5 billion for a high-speed network to Manchester and Leeds to London. It's now on course to cost around £80 billion, but a line that goes just from London to Birmingham. It only took an hour anyway to Houston. Double the money, a third of the railway, and nobody has gone to prison. Nobody has personally repaid a penny they signed off. Asylum hotels are costing 2.1 billion a year, 5.77 million a day, and here's the detail buried in the report. Hotels take 76% of the accommodation budget, while housing just 35% of the people. Someone owns those hotels, someone holds those contracts, and it isn't you. And while all of this is happening, while your tax thresholds were frozen and your dividend tax went up, MPs gave themselves a 5% pay rise this April, taking their salary to £98,500. And here's the rule that I want you to remember, because it explains everything. When you make a mistake with your money, you pay for it. When they make a mistake with your money, you also pay for it. Now let me be fair for a second. Some of your money does real things. Pensioners do get paid. Kids get taught. The NHS saves lives every day. And people that are in the NHS, they're heroes. And this isn't a video saying teachers and nurses are the problem. They're victims of the same machine. But ask the question nobody in Westminster once asked. As an individual, what's your return? You pay some of the highest taxes since the World War. In exchange, a GP appointment, 3 to 4 weeks. An MRI scan, months. CT scan, months. A record NHS waiting list. Potholes your council can't afford to fix because they're bankrupt. Rubbish bins not collected. A police force that gives you a crime reference number instead of an investigation. You are paying first-class prices for an economy seat and the flight's delayed. If a private business treated its paying customers the way the British state treats its taxpayers, it would be bankrupt in a year. But the state has something no business has. You can't unsubscribe. Or can you? Because here's what they don't teach you in school. Tax is not a law of nature, it's a price. And like any price, you can compare it. So let's compare it. In the UAE, personal income tax, 0. Tax on your dividend, 0. Capital gains tax on your personal investments, 0. Inheritance tax, 0. Corporation tax, 0 to 9%. Small businesses can actually apply for business relief as well. VAT, 5%, not 20%. And before anyone says, yeah, but you get nothing for it. Have you been to the UAE lately? Absolute world-class infrastructure. Streets so safe people leave their laptops on cafe tables. A metro that turns up. Because here's the difference in philosophy. The UAE runs government like a business competing for customers. It knows that if it treats residents badly, they'll leave. Britain runs government like a monopoly because for most people it is one, and the numbers show people are voting with their feet. The UK was projected to lose 16,500 millionaires in a single year, more than any country on earth, and the number one destination was the UAE, which took in a record 9,800 of them. The wealthy have already done the maths. The only question is when the rest of us are allowed to. Now, honesty time, because this is where every other video lies to you. Moving to a UAE structure is worse than not doing it at all. UK residence rules follows you. A Dubai shell company with no real substance while you sit in Manchester is not a strategy. It's an HMRC investigation with a waiting period. If someone promises you zero tax with zero changes to your life, run. The people doing this successfully do it properly. Genuine UAE operations, the right residence position, correct treatment of everything that stays in the UK, clean records on both sides. So where does that leave you? Look, I'm not telling you to stop paying tax. That's illegal. And frankly, HMRC just gave itself 40 new powers in a single afternoon in June, including plans to take debt straight out of bank accounts. Don't fight the machine from inside the machine. What am I telling you? I'm telling you it is a choice where you're taxed. The wealthiest people in Britain have already made that choice. And it's not just for billionaires. If you run a business with clients, if your income isn't chained to a UK postcode, you have options they never advertise. That's literally what we do at Evolve Tax. We build compliant UK to UAE structures, company formation, visas, banking, ongoing compliance on both sides, and a monthly review so nothing HMRC announces ever catches you off guard. If this video made you think, the link below books a consultation. We'll look at your actual numbers and tell you honestly whether a UAE structure makes sense for you. And if it doesn't, we'll tell you that too. More often than not, people that come to us, the structure is not for them. Because after 15 minutes of watching where your money goes, maybe it's time some of it started going to you. Subscribe if you want the follow-up. Exactly how much a UAE structure saves at £100,000, £250,000 and £500,000 profit. See you there.